I've been having like eye strain, I think, for like the first time in my life. Like I'm like getting these like headaches behind my it feels like kind of like behind my eyes, or like kind of like right here above my eyes or something. Yeah, I'm playing a lot of Civ 6 again, and I've really meant to like upgrade the TV, but it's like a rather small screen I'm playing on from across the room, and there's a lot of little details in that game.
See, I have moral superiority by not gaming, and not staring at a screen for, the computer game for too long. But I also look at my phone for upwards of like 8 hours a day, which is somehow better.
Yeah, I mean, that's never bothered me. It's just, I guess, just like, I mean, I don't have any problem seeing that,
Right,
I don't know.
Right.
It's that, it's with it being on the other side of the room like that. I don't know. Got a good game going, though. Got a good Maya science game going. Yeah.
I don't know what any of that means.
So let's wrap this up. Come on, let's go.
So,
like 10 more minutes, I think we got.
So, look, we wanted to do like we've put out some, how can I say, heavy content recently. So we wanted to have something a little bit more breezy, a little bit lighter, and something a bit of a potpourri, potent potables. No, that's not the right one. Whatever the fucking Jeopardy category
potpourri.
is when there's
potpourri.
Yeah, potpourri. That's
potpourri.
I have to just, before we get into anything, I just have to share this. Did you see this clip of? I think I put it in like the DM the other day of Nancy Pelosi being asked about COVID relief.
Yes, I couldn't even bring. I saw it in the chat, but I couldn't even bring myself to watch it. But I guess I don't have a choice now.
No, we're going through this.
I just want to dig into that a little bit more on the COVID relief.
This will be your third time.
My third time. What? Ask about COVID relief?
Yeah.
Well, it's substantive. You like substantive questions, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, while people are dying in Ukraine and all of that,
people are dying from COVID too.
It's so fucking crazy. Like the Democrats, above all else, hate domestic policy.
Well, she can't even hide like her contempt, like how mad she is that he would even that the journalist would even have the audacity to even ask that.
Isn't it incredible? And she like, as measured as she is, and I don't doubt that she is, and we've covered her before, and all of her maneuvering and vote whipping and all that stuff. It's like she's obviously very calculated in a lot of ways. She could not give less of a shit about like her public, like her persona and how she's perceived in in press conferences and shit. Because she hides, exactly like you said, she does nothing to hide her contempt for the questions that she could not give a shit about. And this is like a stunning example. Again, like we're gonna round by the time and I don't even want to think about this right now, but like the BA2 variant kind of rolls through, stealth Omicron or whatever they call it. Like by the time that kind of rolls through and gets run through the country, we'll crest 1 million deaths directly attributed.
We're close.
I mean, obviously we're already
easily
over
that. Yeah,
she could not give less of a shit. It's stunning to me. And even like that coupled with the idea, again, Democrats are in power, right? They hold the executive branch. They hold basically both houses of Congress, even though Joe Manchin's just a Republican with a D in front of his name or whatever. And Kirsten Sinema for that matter. But like the minimum wage has not changed since 2009. And what is the minimum wage? Is it $7.25?
I think it's $7. It may be up to $7.50, but yeah, it may not be more than $7.25.
$7.25.
$7.25.
And even just in the last
my first job when I was a teenager, I made like $6.50.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that was like not all that long ago in the grand scheme of things, and the minimum wage has risen 75 cents in that time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I remember. Well, my first job on the books, I guess I was 15. I was a busboy, but that was like restaurant minimum wage. It was like $2 an hour or something. Anyway, it was rough, and I got wages stolen for. Oh, Jesus Christ, what a nightmare. Anyway. $7.25 an hour in 2009 should be worth $9.75 an hour today, just to keep up with inflation, let alone like, even interpolating about how immoral it is that just cannot give you like, a decent life in like, or rent an apartment in like literally all 50 states or whatever the metric is. Like, and like you are 7% poorer than you were last year because of like the 7% inflation that we've had like in the cost of living index and shit. It's just, again, for the Democrats to be in power, you have to listen to the things that they don't do. And that's where you find like a lot of the truth of where their policy actually is. Because, what they want you to do is vote them in to be able to, make things better, or it's your moral imperative that you need to, get the bad guys out. But most of the Democrats' policy is what they don't do. And when you look at that, it's like properly fucking sinister.
Well, the ultimate like triumph of neoliberalism is just like the way it's driven into like everybody's mind in this country, that the government doesn't owe you anything. The government has no obligation to you to do anything. And like that's been so thoroughly internalized, even by everybody in our nominally left-wing party, and the supporters of that party. I bet lots of like fucking like sicko Pelosi fans were like, that was an epic dunk. That was an epic clapback. Yeah, exactly. It's just like there's nothing substantive. It's all just these sort of grand gestures, which like even like her referencing Ukraine is like, right? These sort of like just sort of gesturing towards the idea of freedom, or the idea of whatever, right? But there's nothing substantive. There's nothing.
Right.
The government's not going to actually give you anything, right? That they're not. That's not what they're there for. That's not what they're there for. They're there to keep things fair and competitive, and give everybody an equal shot, whatever that means. But without really actually doing that, basically, it's just we're here to give everybody equal footing in the market. Is basically all it's really come down to. Like
even I was thinking about this morning because I had an Amazon package delivered, and it was like a wrong unit of measurement that I need, and this is like something that was critical, like a critical item that I really needed. And so it was fulfilled by Amazon, but it was from another company or whatever. And I went on hold, to call them and like get them to resend it or whatever for 20 minutes, and nobody picked up. There's no like phone tree, like there's no option to click in that or say representative. And I was like, that alone, like what I was thinking about was like that alone, like with keeping you on hold, that is you working for that company. Like you, by being on hold and spending your time being on hold, you are working for that company instead of them hiring somebody, a sufficient amount of people to yield the calls that, to conduct the business that they're doing. And so that alone is sick. And then I started thinking about Amazon, how like, there was a big announcement this week that they bought MGM for whatever it was, like $5 billion of just, buying their content and their production, I assume, is their idea, because they are in like video distribution. And then I was just thinking, like, they bought Whole Foods, like they are in basically every aspect of our economy in some way.
Right. They're basically just like a fucking modern Fiefdom.
Yes.
Honestly,
and yet have basically no oversight.
Right.
Like there should be the Amazon Act that goes through Congress, and it's like, hey, we need to break it up into constituent parts, like we did with Bell, Bell Telephone or whatever, and you could do that, or just any sort of like federal oversight. Again, even just you could pick anything, like the fact that they own like a majority of the web servers in the United States.
Right.
The fact that like many people are hurt on the job and they're an enormous employer, and like they could address that. Or the fact that like they are, performing duties for the U.S. military. There's like so many reasons that you could pick to be like, this is a fucking, dormant leviathan that just needs to be wrangled before it just becomes too large, which it already has done. So it's it's a fucking problem. And again, like, what are the things that the Democrats aren't doing? And that's just, we have just this massive monopoly, growing vines beneath our feet. And what the fuck can we do about it? Basically nothing. Right.
Well, I mean, just increasingly, we just like do business with like 3 companies, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like everything we do is we're interacting in some way with like Amazon or Google or something or one of those.
Yes. And if they don't, and they take great pains to like manipulate and manufacture their image to make them feel like a fucking avuncular figure in your life. Like you just, rely on us. We'll make it work. And And when it just doesn't work out, then you really feel the fucking cold shoulder, like I felt this morning.
Yeah, I mean, like, in kind of like branching off the like idea of this is like a fucking like a modern fiefdom or something. Like, I mean, at one point, do we even like I thought the whole idea of capitalism was like the free market and to like to let everybody participate in like to have competition, right? And to have competition and to have markets for like different, you know, goods and services and stuff. But just increasingly, we're just only it's just everything is being gobbled up by just like a handful of companies that are, you know, basically just owned by, you know, a single person like Jeff Bezos or something like that, right? So we're just increasingly you know, rather than actually like participating in any kind of market, just like basically participating within the fiefdom of one person who owns this giant monopoly.
It's so fucked up, man. Again, like, you know, piggybacking on the episode that we did on the Russian billionaires, you know, and us refusing to call people oligarchs in this country.
Right.
You know what else I was thinking about too is like, because we're in a crumbling empire, that means that we have a gerontocracy, and the people that run it are old as shit. You know, Nancy Pelosi's like 81, 82 or something. Fucking Joe Biden's what? He's got to be 79 by now.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, he's 79. Fuck. But you know, the point is like they are also, again, going back to like what she said to that reporter about Ukraine and the you know, just us just begging for fucking help while we're dying and being thrown into the meat grinder for capital. And she's just like, fuck off. Simply fuck off. But because the implication is like, don't you see we have more important things at hand, like defeating Vladimir Putin, defeating Russia? And I just like, because we have a gerontocracy, like all these people's brains have been poisoned for like 50 years of the Cold War.
Oh, sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like she was born in 1940, I think. And
well, it's also, you know, kind of like sort of like that entire like, you know, World War II, post World War II generation. It's so much easier to see like international conflict or anything like that as this sort of dichotomy, this like battle between good and evil with like very clearly defined sides of who is good and who is evil.
Baby shit. Like children's book shit. Again, it's like a fucking Aesop's fables, like just like baby shit. Just unbelievable. Again, like, you know, I don't think anybody that's listening to this doesn't know this, but like we are one of the bad guys. Like it's I can't tell me if you remember us talking about this, but I can't fucking recall who told me this in the last like 2 or 3 weeks. But I've been thinking about it ever since, and it's things have like started to make a lot more sense to me. So I can't recall who told me this, but they were like, things start to make sense when you recognize that like America is the right-wing dream. Like for a company, like, you know, again, the United States is, I allege, the largest tax haven in the world. You know, if you want to be a company, you know, you've got workers that are propagandized and have been for nearly 100 years to say that like, yeah, like you were talking about, like the government owes you nothing. You're replaceable. If you don't do what I'd say, then, you know, some other schmuck's going to do it. We have a reserve army of labor. We have, you know, we have a standing army in the police that like brutalizes and you know, literally beats us down when there's like popular rebellion. And we have a government vanguard like that's in power to pass legislation that's popular with capital. And, you know, that do you like even fucking, I still can't fucking forget Cory Booker giving that impassioned speech about the police, and like they passed some what was it, they like passed some act that like to policing reform negotiations or some shit. Oh yeah Cory, here it is. Cory Booker remarks on George Floyd and policing reform in America.
Madam President,
Senator from New Jersey,
I am so excited. This is perhaps the highlight of this long and painful and torturous night. This is a gift. If it wasn't complete abdication of Senate procedures and esteem, I would walk over there and hug my colleague from Alabama. And I will tell you right now, thank God, because there's some people who have said that they're members of this deliberative body that want to defund the police, to my horror. And now this senator has given us the gift that finally, once and for all, we can put to bed this scurrilous accusation that somebody in this great esteemed body would want to defund the police.
But again, like every part of the American experience is geared toward, making sure that people are brutalized. And it is a workforce. There's very little environmental regulation. You can fucking drill on public lands. Like, it's so crazy. There's infrastructure built for rail and trucks, all over to distribute goods and services all over the country that are primarily there for that. It's the right-wing dream. It's the right-wing dream. We had fucking slavery. Like, right. It's so crazy. What a fucked up country. And of course, the idea that like even to say that is like controversial just shows you how fucking far gone we are. I'm very brave is what I'm saying, Chris. I think you understand.
Sure.
To get into some of the news items here, one of the things that I wanted to mention was something that came out yesterday. It was a House vote, actually, to pass something called the Crown Act, which I wanted to mention. I'll just read briefly here from this NPR article from yesterday. It says the House passes the Crown Act, a bill banning discrimination on race-based hairdos. It says here, the House passed a bill on Friday that would ban race-based hair discrimination at work, federal programs, and public accommodations, which is very narrow, I should say, because a lot of structural racism and white supremacist, Eurocentric, beauty standards and stuff happens in many other systems and places aside from just, work, federal programs, and public accommodations. This should, in my humble opinion, should absolutely transcend into, private enterprise and all that stuff. But anyway, it says the Crown Act, which stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair Act, passed along party lines, 235 to 189, which we'll talk about in a second. The bill now heads to the Senate for a vote. And this is a quote here from Representative Ayanna Pressley saying, "For too long, black girls have been discriminated against and criminalized for the hair that grows on our heads and the way we move through and show up in this world." And I, just doing some like cursory, Googling about just for news stories that include, brutalizing black women, black people in general about their hair. It's just like it's one of those things where it's like a civil rights thing that you just take for granted. You're like, surely, it's illegal to discriminate somebody on the basis of their hair, but it was not. And this act is meant to put a little bit of a dent in it. It will likely not pass the Senate. It will likely die there, is kind of the guess. And just to color this in the NPR article, there's an example here that I just want to read through quickly. It says, more than a decade in the making, a prior attempt at taking hair discrimination complaints to court failed. In May 2010, Chastity C. Jones, who was hired to work as a customer service representative with Catastrophe Management Solutions in Alabama, lost her job offer after she refused a human resources request for Jones to cut her dreadlocks. Can you fucking imagine? A lawsuit filed by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission against Catastrophe Management Solutions ultimately failed. An Alabama district court ruled CMS's refusal to hire Jones because she wore dreadlocks did not violate federal civil rights law. Insane. Just, again, very important civil rights act to be pushed through. For those that are curious, it did pass unanimously on the Democratic side. Only 14 Republicans voted for it. 189 voted nay.
You would think that they really like missed the layup to say that they don't see color or race or whatever, right? Like that's their, that's what they always like to say.
Yes. Which in itself is like a racist thing to say.
Of course. Yeah. Hey, I don't care if you're black, white, green, or yellow. Yeah, but I mean, they really missed a layup on that one. I guess they were pretty torn between, trying to say they don't see race and also, trying to prevent the, Marxist CRT from infiltrating government.
That's right.
I think that's what won out in their minds.
I think you're entirely right. I really want to see. I want to see who voted yay for this on the Republican side. If there's nobody that I recognize their names really. Liz Cheney.
I was gonna say not even the good Republican.
Man, what a fucking joke, man. Anyway, it's just stunning stuff to me, and I still can't believe that happened with the well, obviously I can't believe that happened with the Republicans. Another thing that you and I were talking about last night, Chris, which I really, really am dying to bring up, was a fucking stunning article that I saw. Was from the San Francisco Chronicle. In fact, Chris, I'll send this to you just in case you want to see it.
Yeah, I had it up. Let me get it pulled back.
And I've got it. I've got the web address so that you can get past the.
By the way, I still have an active subscription to the San Francisco Chronicle, but that's only because nightmare, dude, nightmare. I still, because I used to live there, so I still kind of I would like to read it periodically, but their paywall system is awful. They pay you basically like every article. I think if you have any free ones a month, it's like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or something. So I did the thing where I got a trial subscription with the intention of canceling it before they started billing me, which I did not do. And they started billing me like $15 or $20 a month or something, like way more than like the Washington Post or the New York Times or some other places do. But like the really nightmarish part of it was that in order to cancel it, I had to call their customer service line, which was open like 4 days a week from 9 a.m. to like 2:30 p.m.
Jesus.
And it took me like a month to remember to finally do that. But yeah, I have now done that, but I still have an active subscription.
It's the free press.
Yeah.
It's the free press. It's the fourth pillar, readily available information that we need, to make decisions as, citizens and in our civic duties. Alrighty. All right, where are we?
Girl Scouts.
Right, the Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts. All right, so check out this article from San Francisco Chronicle. And again, we cover a lot about tech companies and how they're disrupting industries and all that stuff. Didn't expect this one though, and I think you'll appreciate this. So, San Francisco Chronicle article from this week, from March 15th. Title is, "This 8-year-old's plan to sell Girl Scout cookies turned into a hard lesson on Silicon Valley ethos of business."
Mm-hmm.
This shit is
We're
so
disrupting
good,
the Girl Scout industry.
Well, let's take a listen. Says, after the pandemic disrupted last year's Girl Scout cookie season, Alex Johannesson was determined to sell hundreds of boxes this winter, which is fucking ambitious, but goddamn, they're good, man. The Thin Mints. The Thin Mints and the Samoas and the Tagalongs. Damn. That is the, yeah. You put the Thin Mints in the freezer? That's okay. I prefer room temperature. Love it, man. Love it. It's okay. But the Lafayette third grader was thwarted by 2 challenges beyond her control: supply chain issues and DoorDash. What? A labor shortage at a Kentucky. By the way, anytime they say labor shortage, what that just means is right, people are fucking dying from an uncontrolled contagion. Right. The bakery pays $7.50 an hour. Yeah. It's so fucked up. Okay. So after all, by the way, I wish I could tell it, but I have a story of almost getting arrested in Lafayette that I can't even. What? Maybe I'll tell you, but I can't. Oh man, it's too much. I can't. Is it? It's too much. Yeah. Oh man. Yes. Near there. Yes, there is. Oh man, that's so cool. Oh, that's such a cool story. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, sorry, listeners, you'll never hear the story. For the record, it was an extremely cool fucking story. It was a very cool story. Anyway, so where were we? Okay, it's one thing to confess my crimes on the internet anonymously, but it's another thing to record my own and broadcast it worldwide. Publicly release audio recording of me confessing the crimes. Surely there's a statute of limitations on doing the thing that you did allegedly. Anyway, that's enough of that. Oh man, we can tell it in person to a group of people having a beer at the live show that we will probably die if we ever do die from COVID. Anyway, so so going back to this, so Lafayette, California, which has no consequence to either one of us. Okay. Labor shortage at a Kentucky bakery led to a Bay Area Girl Scouts like Alex scrambling to find cookies earlier this month. So you have to even find them? Mere weeks after the cookie sales began, Alex sold out of her entire supply, apart from 3 boxes of Lemon Ups. Sounds good. With seemingly no more cookies available in the region, she had to turn down family and friends who wanted Thin Mints or Samoas. Good shit. But then her mom, Liz Johannesson, found something frustrating on her phone. While she couldn't get more cookies for her daughter to sell, she found every single kind of cookie available on DoorDash. And the company would deliver that same day to her Lafayette home from Concord, 3 towns away, for just $3.99.
Now, I have some questions about that number that are not answered in this. How is the entire order $3.99? Is that like is there more than that?
Oh no, I think I would guess that $3.99 is the delivery charge.
Okay. Yeah. $3.99. Oh, I took that to mean the cost of the cookies. I took that to mean the cost of the cookies. So I guess $3.99 could be the delivery charge.
I would say that the San Francisco Chronicle needs some better editors to see, because this is unclear to the reader. Yeah. I was kind of hoping that you would have a good story about Concord, California, but anyway.
I do. I have plenty, yeah. Every fucking town in the Bay Area, I can tell you something.
I love it, dude. Oh, man. All right, so let's see. Is that what that song is from that town is from Fall Back Down? The Rancid song? What is it? Didn't they say? No, I'm sorry. Red Hot Moon. I'm sorry. I just have to know this.
What is it?
Oh, no. It says Casey's from Cali, California. I thought it said from Concord, California. Anyway, Red Hot Moon by Rancid. What a fantastic song. Anyway, going back to this. So $3.99. Girl Scouts' partnership with DoorDash, allowing troops to sell cookies on the delivery platform, is new this year. How the fuck does that even work? Essentially a digital version of the familiar green-adorned cookie booths set up outside BART stations and grocery stores, but not all girls were given the chance to participate. DoorDash left that decision up to Girl Scouts, which limited the program to scouts in the 4th grade or above in an effort to be age appropriate. Because I guess sending children to people's houses, you want to make sure they're at least 8 to do that. Like, what the fuck?
I think the idea is that, like, I guess because supposedly the parents aren't supposed to help with the the Girl Scout cookie selling, so like I guess like that's what they say is the idea behind that. They're
just training small business.
Yeah, they have to be old enough to, I don't know, manage it responsibly or whatever.
Of course, no. I mean, we all know that managerial skills come developmentally at like age 9.
Right.
In regions with many troops, some local leaders decided to restrict the use of the app further to older scouts. That left some parents confused as to why their daughters didn't have that option. Johannesson said this year's cookie season felt like, quote, the perfect microcosm of the Silicon Valley ethos. Certain people, she said, have access to technology that can boost sales. And sometimes those same people can afford to commit $1,000 worth of cookies in anticipation of a shortage. This is insane. It's like gigifying Girl Scouts cookies. Right. Fucking nuts. It was not the education I was expecting to give my daughter from Girl Scouts about fairness and access and bridging the digital divide, but it's definitely an education in how business works in our country today. Can't agree more. I would say that this is absolutely like an extremely valuable lesson to distrust like big tech and apps and shit like that.
Sure.
Jesus Christ.
But we'll quickly and easily, I think, probably could be just internalized just based on. I mean, that's just how capitalism isn't fair. Markets aren't fair. That's just the way it is. This is the same kind of like justification, like when like a private equity firm like does all of the fucking shit that they do, or like and try to say, well, it's within the rules. It's within the the groundwork and the ground rules laid out by capitalism. I mean, who's to we just happen to be the ones in this privileged position where we got to take advantage of it, but it's perfectly fair. It could have been anybody.
Right. They're not doing anything illegal. If a fella can make $1 billion doing something good, He should be able to keep that windfall and pay his fair share of taxes. So it continues here. According to Christine Dant, who is the senior director of product programs for Girl Scouts in Northern California, implying that there's, implying that there's like other areas, senior, like it seems like a huge business apparatus to me.
Oh, the Girl Scout cookie sales?
Yes.
Isn't it like nearly $1 billion a year industry?
Serious?
Yeah, it's a huge industry.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So it says here, according to Christine Dant, just a tiny fraction, maybe 1%, of Girl Scout troops in the region are selling on DoorDash this year. A DoorDash spokesperson said the collaboration came out of a mutual desire to, quote, empower local economies. I have never read such a load of bullshit in my whole life.
Because we know so well that that's what every fucking like gig economy app values ahead of everything else is
they're empowering people to make minimum wage, but without getting any benefits.
Yeah, you get to be your own boss. You get to make your own hours,
which happens to be from 11 o'clock at night to 5 o'clock in the morning. So it says here, DoorDash waived its usual fees on Scout sales. Which they wrote off on their taxes, absolutely. In Northern California, cookie sales dropped from 4.6 million in 2020 to 2.6 billion in 2021. So through this, they nearly halved the amount of cookie sales done. But Dant says that sales are expected to be better this year. The Girl Scout cookie business is significant. In a typical year, yeah, you're right, Chris, the national organization sells around $800 million of cookies. While the cookie shortage and the DoorDash situation are unrelated, I don't think, I mean, you could say that, but I would say broadly that in, a lot of ways they are related. But anyway, their simultaneous appearance is stressing out some parents and sparking some speculation, tying them together. There's a quote here. You've got a big corporation with all the money behind it, and on the other hand, you have 8-year-olds standing outside of Safeway.
It's the Safeway.
They didn't hear that. They didn't hear that part of it. To any law enforcement listening, no, you didn't hear that. Standing outside of the Safeway with no cookies, and they look sad. That's such a weird thing to say. Why are they just Girl Scouts lined up there looking sad without cookies to sell? I don't understand why they're saying that. But anyway. Alex Cow of Lafayette, whose 8th grade daughter in Lafayette is not participating in the DoorDash program, he couldn't recall whether his daughter's troop had explored the DoorDash program. Cow has been the official cookie coordinator for his daughter's troop for 6 years and says he's never seen cookie cupboards, the volunteer-run home garages where scouts can restock on cookies, empty all over the Bay Area. The major concern, he said, is that cookie sales are the key fundraiser for troops. If there aren't cookies to sell, scouts may not be able to pay for activities later this year, like visiting a museum, going horseback riding, or organizing a community event.
I was in Boy Scouts and I barely did any shit like that. I guess it's because we only had fucking like shitty popcorn to sell. We didn't get the cookies. We didn't get the real moneymaker.
I went to exactly like one orientation for Boy Scouts, and I looked around and I was like,
yeah, I mean,
I'm a musician, man. This shit ain't for me.
In my defense, I was out of it before by adolescence.
Smart.
Before adolescence. No. I was barely. I guess I was a wee below. I guess that was the furthest I made it into actual Boy Scouts.
Dude, I haven't heard that word in like 20 years. Jesus Christ! Wow, that just unlocked so deep memories. Jesus Christ! I mean, the kind of shit that the Boy Scouts did, like, because I grew up in the country, whatever, is like a lot of fun, right? You run around the woods and like whittle, and you get to use knives. I remember shit.
whittling.
That's fun. Like, who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah.
But I just did that. I was just running around the woods alone, or with a buddy or something like that. It just did that anyway. Nothing more fun in when you're a kid growing up in the country than exploring drain pipes, which could probably kill you at any moment.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of woods, and a lot of like in those woods there was a lot of like very old abandoned houses and stuff that was pretty cool. There were several places like that, which is just like, if you're
nothing more fun.
Yeah, this would have been a bit older, I guess. This would have been, I mean, by this point I would have had a car. I would have been like 16, and I was mostly like, doing drugs at these places, but a lot of fun with your friends in the woods, regardless.
Oh, dude, this is the best, man.
Yeah.
It's the fucking best. I mean, yeah, you get. I don't think I had skin on my knees for like between ages 8 to 14 or something like that, because you're always just running around and scraping them up. Anyway, so going back to this, the thing, Chris, that I just can't get my head around is the insidious shit is that DoorDash is starting to engage these young girls, these fucking literal 8-year-old girls, into subsuming them into the gig economy. DoorDash should have it should be nowhere near this. No app like this. If
sure.
at its core, this should be a community oriented thing.
Yeah, I mean,
but this is when you have even nonprofits
right.
are so susceptible to the capitalist, mad dash for for-profit partnerships and capitalist hierarchy and shit like that. They can't. This is just the nature of where we are in late stage capitalism. Is that nonprofits cannot help themselves from engaging in the cutthroat fucking piracy that that would be in a fucking for-profit capitalist enterprise regardless.
Well, and it's as part of the sort of broader project over the past several decades, just any sort of sense of community or any sort of community activity or community engagement has just basically been utterly eviscerated.
Correct.
And this is just yet another example of that. In the most basic sense, you see the Girl Scouts selling cookies outside the grocery store. It's a fucking, at the very least, some community engagement, community participation.
Right.
It's a
yes.
It just it comes. It has to have this again. These sort of feudal overlords to swoop in and monetize it and gigify it and just sanitize it and completely strip it of any sense of community and make it this just sterile, purely profit driven thing.
Well, if you needed any confirmation, buckle up for this sentence. When an order comes in through the delivery platform, Scouts must review it, confirm it, package the cookie order, and label it. Mm-hmm. They also need to keep track of multiple orders at a time while communicating with drivers and potentially with DoorDash if something goes wrong. What the fuck is the point of this, dude? This is literally anything that a restaurant or a delivery driver would be doing, responsible for the fucking transaction,
right,
the life cycle of the transaction. And there's 8-year-old girls. Fuck. One time, Solnit said, a driver couldn't find her troop and the Scouts had to explain their location, which was a parking lot, over the phone in Spanish. To her, that's a high level of customer service. And Solnit said parents aren't supposed to get too involved. It's hard for a 5th grader to do it, she said. It's hard to multitask. They're kids. They're oh, there's a pretty bird. And I'm okay, focus. What the fuck are we doing to these kids, man? They're children. They shouldn't be fucking learning how to interact with a delivery fulfillment platform. Doing customer management. It says here, for Solnit's daughters, Arrow and Miri, the DoorDash program has been a hit. It's now their preferred way to sell cookies. On a busy Saturday, they sold 250 boxes, comparable to the result of a prime slot outside of a popular grocery store, she said. But they love the fast pace and the technology, she said, the dinging sound when an order comes in. We're literally doing the fucking Pavlovian response for these poor children. It's just gamifying fucking, their childhoods. I don't want to read much more of this because I think we just got the point. I mean, I honestly can't believe, I know intellectually that a lot of this stuff happens where under, late stage capitalism and neoliberalism broadly, every single thing in our lives has been turned into a market or, an opportunity for a private enterprise to come in and, take over that thing. I was a bit blindsided by fucking Girl Scout cookies. Unreal. That's the end of that.
Hell yeah.
While we're on the subject of, fucked up, large scale enterprises just destroying parts of our lives.
Are we ever on any other subject but that?
No. No. talking about our depression and anxiety, I guess, but I think that kind of goes hand in hand. I don't know if that's helpful. I think we should talk about Hertz.
Sure.
So
sure.
we had talked about Hertz rental car, and I've been like looking at this for like nearly a year, because basically the life cycle would happen is that, like, Hertz is a large rental car company, and they you could say as a result of the pandemic, where not a lot of people were traveling, they weren't like doing as many rental cars, they ran into a bunch of financial trouble and ended up filing for bankruptcy.
Aw.
And so yeah, it happens. And so
I hope there's a happy ending to this story.
Well, there never is. And what was even more stunning was that a report, I remember seeing this like news report come out, that it was saying that and Tesla stock spiked as a result. Mm-hmm. But Hertz put out a statement saying that it had placed an order.
So did Hertz. So did Hertz stock price.
Oh, did I say?
Oh, Tesla and Hertz. Right. Yeah, they both did.
Which is crazy, because usually, like, when companies announce huge capital expenditures, like, their stock prices go down.
Right. Yeah. Well, exactly. Generally, yeah. In that situation, you would expect Tesla's to go up, but not necessarily Hertz's.
Exactly. So Hertz, I can't. It's hard for me to even say this out loud. I'm just reading here from a Forbes article, and it says, on the final Monday of October, Hertz said, this was last year, Hertz said that it had placed a $4.2 billion order for 100,000 vehicles from Tesla to add to its rental fleet by the end of 2022. The public response was immediate. Hertz stock soared 10%. Shares of Tesla climbed nearly 13%. The deal was widely seen as a big win for both companies. CNBC described it as a tipping point that could usher the rental car industry into the, quote, climate change era. How wonderful is that? Because no one takes a look at, our assured destruction and says, yeah, but how can we monetize this, like, large publicly traded enterprises? It said, was there really a deal here after all? This week, Elon Musk tweeted that Tesla hadn't signed a contract with Hertz. There were fears of chicanery, causing both companies' share prices to waver. Before long, though, those fears abated. A Hertz spokesperson said publicly and then confirmed the order and said Tesla deliveries had already begun. The real question, it seems, is whether all 100,000 vehicles will actually arrive in the next 14 months. The Wall Street Journal said the two sides are still hammering out the details of a specific delivery timeline. This, to me, seems like stock manipulation.
Oh, sure, which is like Elon Musk's favorite thing to participate in.
He loves it. He cannot get enough. So again, very fucking odd that this rental car company who was, in the throes of bankruptcy, all of a sudden said that they're going to spend $4.2 billion on a car company. And this is so fucking crazy. It just seems really, really weird. And I'm just going to skip down here a little bit. And it says here, then a funny thing happened. Retail investors started flocking to Hertz stock. Some were driven by the belief that Hertz brand could eventually sell for enough to return some value to equity holders. Some were driven by pure speculation. Whatever the reason, the result was that Hertz shares soared 1,000% in the span of 2 weeks, climbing from as low as 59 cents per share to up to $5.50. What the fuck? Hertz tried to capitalize. In June, in a highly unusual move, the bankrupt company announced plans to sell as much as $1 billion worth of new shares, while cautioning investors that the common stock could ultimately be worthless. What the fuck is happening here, Chris? It managed to raise $29 million before the SEC intervened. The meme craze began to fade. In October, the NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange, formally delisted Hertz, relegating to the company to the realm of penny stocks. What a fucking ride. The smart money derided these retail investors who were pumping cash into a bankrupt business. But as it turned out, those retail investors were onto something. Global car shortages, caused in large part by global chip shortages, meant that prices for used cars surged during the second half of 2020. If there's any fucking, example to show you that, like, this is the end Like, none of this shit makes sense. This is like a perfect example to me. Hertz took advantage by selling off hundreds of thousands of vehicles, nearly a third of its overall fleet. Because, right, they had all these fucking used cars that were just sitting there mothballed. When travel resumed quicker than many expected, because we live in a hellscape, those same car shortages meant Hertz and its rivals were able to rent for their remaining inventory for eye-watering rates, more than $300 per day in some cities. Jesus. When Hertz began the process of looking for new investment to help bring the company out of bankruptcy, it had no shortage of suitors. A host of private equity firms circled the business, including Warburg Pincus and Centerbridge Partners. A bidding war developed, and when the dust settled this May, the winners were Knighthead Capital Management and Certares Management, who agreed to furnish Hertz with some $5.9 billion in new capital while slashing $5 billion off of its debt load. The deal also called for owners of Hertz equity to receive as much as $8 per share, a shocking win for those retail investors who had rushed to Hertz a year prior, a demonstration of how the nature of the stock market has changed in the meme stock era. I honestly can't believe it. It's so fucking upsetting to me that like something like this is even allowed to happen. I need to catch my breath for a second. Holy shit.
Well, again, it's just another example, classic example of what the private equity firms do that we've like discussed, over and over and over again to come in to grab this business up. And, the things that have happened during that time has been, like you mentioned, like a large part of the fleet being sold off. I believe they laid off like 50% of their workforce totally, like in total, like 20,000 total layoffs, I believe, like during this period. But then to turn it around and have them have the stock price skyrocket. I believe they have been listed again. They are on the New York Stock Exchange again. Their share price is sitting at around $23 or so at the moment, I believe. This is a success story. This is an example of a turnaround, right?
That's what's so fucking sick to me. And so I'm just reading here from a New Republic article about Elizabeth Warren getting involved because, I think, she's kind of made a name for herself looking at some, capital metastasis like we're looking at with this and saying like, hey, this is fucked up, right? So it says here, I'm just reading from this New Republic article. It says, in October, Hertz announced a 39% profit for the third quarter, its highest since 2015. That's good, right? The company is so flush that last month it authorized up to $2 billion in stock buybacks. That earned the company a stern December 6th letter from Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, chiding it for its greed in rewarding executives, company insiders, and big shareholders. Hertz told CNN that it had received Warren's letter and intended to respond, though as of Tuesday afternoon it had not done so. The case was Hertz is a pathetically weak company begins with the fact that, noted pointedly by Warren in her letter, that it, quote, entered 2020 bloated with debt and was unable to withstand the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, filing for bankruptcy in May 2020. The company laid off or furloughed 20,000 workers and sold almost 200,000 cars from its fleet, reducing the fleet size by nearly 1/3 before emerging from bankruptcy in 2021. And just for those that don't know, there's a difference between, filing for bankruptcy for liquidation, where it's just like the company's done, versus filing for bankruptcy for restructuring, which is what they did, right? So what that basically means is like it allows for a judge to get involved, a court to get involved, a bankruptcy court, and to be able to restructure their debt. So pensions, things owed to workers, just write those off. Debts like that, just write those off. And then, hey, we owe a bank, an interest, or we owe our fucking electric bill, or we owe, Amazon Web Services for hosting all of our servers and stuff like that. That allows, the bankruptcy court allows to go into those, debts that are owed into a negotiation process, right? So it's like, yeah, listen, can we pay you, let's call it 80 cents on the dollar, 10 cents on the dollar, or just wipe off this debt entirely. And that's what's so fucking crazy is that in this case, who loses is workers, obviously, because, 20,000 people were laid off. But also there's a cost to society with this, bankruptcy as well, right? A lot of the shit just gets written off. And so that's, a lack of tax revenue and stuff that would otherwise be, able to be used. It becomes a problem. And the fact that it went from that to doing stock buybacks and paying dividends in the span of like fucking 18 months or whatever is just, it's so morally bankrupt to me.
Right. I mean, because it's obvious that the entire key to this turnaround is the layoffs. It is selling off the fleet. It is all that stuff, right?
Yes. And not to mention the fucking stock manipulation,
right.
with Tesla and Elon Musk. I mean, if you want to get into business with a guy that does that, that's the guy to go. What was the part that you were going to talk about, Chris?
I was going to talk about the other story that's been kind of going on about Hertz, and there's been a lot more about this recently. Is all of the people who have gotten like falsely accused and in some cases arrested, in some cases convicted of car theft because Hertz reported vehicles stolen illegitimately, right? Like people have been wrongfully accused of car theft and arrested because of Hertz. And I had a couple little, I just wanted to mostly kind of read some anecdotes about that from some different articles. One is a Washington Post article that just came out back in February. Another one is like an ABC article from back in 2019. But reading a little bit from the Washington Post article here, it says some spent days in jail, others months. One woman alleges she was arrested more than 2 years after she returned the vehicle she was accused of stealing. All claimed that the rental company Hertz or its subsidiaries, Dollar or Thrifty, reported them to police for stealing cars for which they had properly paid.
Unbelievable. Now,
there's this big, class action lawsuit that's been going on as a result of this. As part of that, Hertz has had to publicize its number of theft accusations, and Hertz has said that annually what they've admitted to is about 3,500 police reports for stolen vehicles annually. That's what they've admitted to. The number is believed to possibly be closer to like 8,000 annually. And the way they do this is they just sort of like whenever there's this, it can be any number of different situations. For whatever reason, they're suspecting that this they haven't got the car back, or they're suspecting it's stolen, whatever. They seem to just like file these police reports willy-nilly, and then if they do get the car back, they don't follow up. And like their response to that has been like, well, at the time we filed the police report, it was legitimate. There was suspicion that the car was stolen. It's up to the police to do what they're going to do with that once we've, now that we filed the report. A couple more personal anecdotes here. Here's from an ABC article from 2019. It says 7 hours I was detained, says Dina Johnson of Cleveland, Ohio.
What the fuck?
Johnson was on her way back from visiting family in Canada last year when a Border Patrol agent told her to pull off to the side and turn off the engine of the rental car she was driving. I'm terrified. Reliving it is unbearable, Johnson said at the moment she learned that the car she was driving was stolen. They gave me a stolen car. Turns out the car belonged to another rental car company that had reported stolen a few days earlier. Yet the Hertz agent still processed the rental and gave her the car. Another person here who was 2017 rental from Hertz out of Florida, stopped during a checkpoint. Cops had her at gunpoint, like multiple guns. The cops told her the car was stolen. She still had an active rental on the car. Was arrested. Was in jail for over a week before she was able to get out.
I can't fucking believe it.
Another guy here, Colorado resident Drew Caesar, told CBS News he was stopped by customs officers at an airport, informed there was a warrant for his arrest in Georgia, where Hertz alleged he had stolen a rental car. Caesar said he had never been to Georgia or rented a vehicle from Hertz.
Jesus Christ.
The problem sometimes arises when Hertz cannot find one of its cars in a physical parking lot or its computer system. So the company reports the vehicle missing. Other times, the confusion is caused by a customer swapping cars during their rental period or extending the time frame. If the credit or debit card charge fails to process correctly, Hertz system generates a theft report. This is the Malafie. Malafie is the last name of the one of the attorneys that's involved in this class action lawsuit. Says that the company does not update its police reports if a payment ultimately processes, leaving customers to flounder in the criminal justice system. In 2020, a spokesperson for Hertz told the Philadelphia Inquirer that a stolen vehicle report was valid when it was made, and that it was up to law enforcement to decide what to do with the case.
Unreal.
The company's method of dealing with missing cars amounts to offloading responsibility for its inventory to taxpayer-funded law enforcement, Malafie said. We're having police act as a strong arm for private corporations and private vehicles, he said. This is not what taxpayer dollars are supposed to be used for. So there's this is ongoing. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of anecdotes like these. There's we probably haven't even heard the beginning of how many of these are. In the process of looking into this, I found I discovered another story I just wanted to bring up about Hertz. So there's this guy, a man named Herbert Alford, who was arrested and charged with murder in 2015 for a shooting that had happened 4 years earlier in Lansing, Michigan. He was accused in what prosecutors portrayed as a broad daylight execution style murder over stolen drugs. The prosecution's entire case was based on witness testimony. There was no evidence at all, hard evidence tying him to the murder. At the time of the murder, he was 8 miles away at the Lansing, Michigan Regional Airport renting a car from Hertz. And
No
a
way.
time-stamped receipt from Hertz could prove that. After he was arrested
Jesus Christ.
in 2015, for 3 years, his attorneys tried to get Hertz to turn over a copy of that receipt that would exonerate him, but they never got any response. Starting shortly from after he got arrested in 2015, Hertz was issued subpoena after subpoena, all of which they failed to respond to. A show motion cause was issued also that Hertz ignored. Let me find the rest of my notes here. Hold on.
It's unbelievable.
Oh, okay. So this is a quote from Alfred's attorney here. We got crickets, nothing, he said. That happens from time to time with smaller businesses, but it was unusual for a corporation of this scale. In the meantime, while they were waiting on Hertz to respond to the subpoena, Alfred was tried and convicted and sentenced to 32 to 62 years in prison. His earliest possible release date being October 20th, 2047. It wasn't until 2018, and after 3 years of legal filings, that Hertz produced the receipt that exonerated him and was able to hand that over. Reading again from the article here, it says, in 2018, after Alfred was convicted, a legal assistant from Hertz said the company couldn't find the documents and that they were likely purged from its archives, according to the complaint. An attorney for Alfred responded by demanding the assistant show up for a court hearing on a request for a new trial. Days later, Hertz turned over the receipt, according to the complaint. Based on the receipt, the judge vacated Alfred's conviction in August 2018 and ordered a new trial, writing in an order that he was deprived of presenting an alibi defense. The likelihood that a jury would acquit the defendant after being presented with the newly discovered evidence is great enough to warrant a new trial, wrote the judge, Clinton Kennedy III. Alfred was released on bond in February 2020, and then in December of that year, all the charges were dismissed. He's filed a lawsuit, rightfully, accusing Hertz of
fucking hope so.
civil contempt and negligence, because he wouldn't have spent these years in prison if the company had just responded sooner. Another interesting little wrinkle in this story here, like I mentioned earlier, he was convicted entirely based on witness testimony. That witness testimony came primarily from two witnesses. One was a man named Gilbert Bailey, who was arrested on drug trafficking charges in 2015 and agreed to testify against Alfred in exchange for lesser charges. The other witness is a guy named Jesse Bridges, who is a police informant, who later recanted his testimony, said that he didn't actually witness the murder, and that the police gave him $1,500 to implicate Alfred.
No fucking way.
And that's what he says. That's what he says. And that's kind of like all the articles. It's hard to find any more specific detail about that because all the articles about this, like most of it's about Hertz, and they just kind of like throw that in the last paragraph. Like, wait a second, there's a way bigger story here. Also, yeah,
this shit is just. I think Shane said it on the last episode on TurboTax. He was like, every time we lift up the lid it's just fucking garbage. He's like, oh, that's right. Here it is. Here we are again. God, I feel like there's like a fucking elephant sitting on my chest. This is so fucking crazy.
Oh, there's another another quick anecdote I wanted to mention, because I just found them. My formatting for these fucking notes I took got all fucked up somehow, and I'm too computer illiterate to fix it. But another person here who was arrested for car theft. What the situation with her was that Hertz had called her a few days earlier and told her to return the car because the registration was about to expire. But like, she still, that may have been what Hertz was wanting to do, but I guess the Hertz employee who had called her, I guess they came to some sort of like verbal agreement that she was going to return the car, several days later on the Monday instead of Thursday, and then that's what that sort of like communication breakdown on Hertz's end is what still led to the arrest warrant being issued, even when she'd had this agreement with the representative of the company to turn it in 3 days later.
Yeah, again, just whenever we freaking pull the lid off of some shit like this, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Unbelievable. I
gotta say, I'm really offended by the types of advertisements I'm getting. I have one of the. I guess it's actually the new. It's funny that this is the ad I have in a New Republic article as well.
What is it?
But like I'm getting advertisements for like fucking boomer shirts now. Oh, these ones aren't as good as the other ones were. I saw some other ones. There's the one that says, "Don't worry, I've had both my shots and my booster," and it's a picture of like 2 shots and a beer mug.
Jesus Christ.
There's another one that's just like literally. I keep getting these advertisements for these shirts that are just like have like a Templar knight on them. And then like other shirts, obviously, shirts that are like, I'm a grandpa whose level of sarcasm depends on your level of stupidity. Like those are the kind of that's what Google thinks of me. That's what Google, which they're right. That is what I want to see, but I don't want to buy it.
Sure. I honestly I think about this a lot. Like I wish I could just know certain things. Like who wrote that? How did the process come about? Like, was somebody sitting there being like, "Look at these fucking idiots! They'll buy." Oh,
these anything. This is shit that's just like fucking algorithmically generated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but even before then, like there was that like a Hot Topic and shit, like in the early 2000s. Like it was the same thing, or like the Looney Tunes T-shirts. And
like
shit.
The Looney Tunes with attitude.
Yeah, fuck, very fucking weird. All right. I think we've done enough for this week. We're gonna this was our version of an easy breezy episode, and of course just like capitalistic hell. But anyway,
we used to have Looney Tunes characters with attitudes. Now everything has just been subsumed and replaced with endless minions.
Oh God.
We used to be a proper country.
Stay cool. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye.
Red hot moon, take a bus downtown to the graveyard shift tonight. Under the red hot moon, take a bus downtown to the graveyard shift tonight. KC's California's got a reputation that she didn't ask for, but she's waiting for an escape now. Escape is called the 164. Now Casey, she don't want to admit where she is from. And Casey, she wants to run. She's a punk rocker, she don't trust no one. On a South Bay bus all day long. Under a red hot moon, take a bus downtown to the graveyard shift tonight. Under a red hot moon, take a bus downtown to the graveyard shift tonight. Casey would never caught up like the rest of the rats in a fucking maze. Check me out.
Literally, okay, we're getting back into this article, and literally the fucking guy who does like ham radio near me or whatever.
Yeah, I remember you talking about the guy.
I hear him going check. I'm like, where the fuck is Chris? I don't see him. And then I hear this guy, and he's fucking feeding back. It's like awful.
You should get a ham radio just so you can do this to him.
Hey,
I'm gonna do the equivalent of fucking radio wave ding dong ditch on him. Oh yeah. All right. Let's get back into this.
Sure.
Back into this.
Sure.
Back into this.
Sure.
Back into